All right, welcome to this video. This is the St. Louis Star. If you're doing my 2020 Saturday sampler, you're going to make one of these. This is a 10-inch block. This is entirely paper pieced. Pretty standard paper piecing. I will say this little center is a pain in the patootie, just because there's so many layers on it. But let's get started. I'll show you how we do it. Let's get started making your St. Louis Star. You're going to end up with 8 triangles, big triangles that look like this. We're just going to make one on camera. They're all made the same way. There's 4 facing this way and 4 that are a mirror image of this. So we're just going to do just this one, and then we're going to put everything together into our 10-inch St. Louis Star block. So just like last time, here's our paper piecing template printed on that print, stitch, and dissolve wonderful stuff. I'm going to turn this over to the wrong side up. We're starting with B1, which is right there, and we start with the white. And Cheryl was so kind as to kind of color this pattern in so we can see what we're doing. All right, I have this piece of white, a little scrap of white here. Make sure I've got the wrong side of the fabric to the wrong side of the pattern. Okay, so it looks like it goes that way, and that covers up the entire, let's move it over this way and make sure I've got everything covered. Okay, that covers up everything. Now I'm going to just pin this down so it doesn't move on us. This is actually just barely. Okay, I'm going to turn this over. And what we're going to add on next is this little B2 yellow piece right here. I'm going to move this pin actually out of the way. So we're going to take our B2, our yellow fabric. For now, I'm going to lay it wrong side down just to mark its position and make sure it covers up the entire triangle. The entire triangle is covered. I'm going to put it right side up like I did last time. I'm going to put my little pins in here to mark this seam. Lift everything up as a unit. Make sure I get underneath that yellow as well. Turn it over, use my friction pen and mark where the pins are. And now I'm going to turn this yellow fabric over using the same pins go into the same holes they came out of, just going the other side. So let's turn that over, flip that there, pull this one off and put it on here. Now you're going to notice this is skewed at some weird angle, and you're going to go, how does that cover? Because this is your seam line, remember, so when we fold it over when we're done, it's going to cover what we need it to cover. Alright, so this is all together. Now I'm going to pin this on to the paper to hold everything together, and I'm going to pin it from the paper side there, and up here. And I'll pull out the 2 marker pins, and we are pinned on. We're ready to go to the sewing machine. All right, let's bring this over to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew this line right here between B1 and B2. B1, we're going to start way over here at the dotted line. That's the seam allowance. And then we're going to end up someplace in the middle of this area. We don't have to go clear to the edge, but we do need to go far enough that this next seam will cross over this. That seam is done. Cut the thread and back to the cutting mat. All right, back over at the cutting mat, and let's turn this over to the cutting side. Bring our block over, take our pins out. Okay. Now we're going to use our handy dandy add a quarter plus little sharp edge. We're going to fold the paper only from B2 over on the sewing line. Just put the little ridge of the ruler up against the paper, nice and firmly up against the seam. And we cut everything else off. There is our seam allowance. Open it back up and let's give it a good press. Okay. Alright, that is pressed. The next thing we're going to do, B3, is a piece of blue. So just like the last time, I've got a piece of blue here. It's plenty long enough. I am going to put this piece of blue here and make sure that it covers everything that I need it to cover. Make sure this little yellow piece is nice and tight over there and doesn't wrinkle up. All right. And we're going to put pins at each end of this seam, push them all the way through. Pick everything up. Mark our pinholes. And flip this over. Make sure everything's good and snug, that you haven't got, this is a long seam, so you don't want to have anything wrinkling up on you in there. Okay. And we're going to pin from the paper side at the end of the seams. Okay, and then when you fold it over, we're starting to see our block. So let's go back to the sewing machine and sew this seam. Let's sew this seam. This is a nice big long seam. That seam is sewn. Cut our threads and go back to the cutting mat. Okay, back to cut. Pins out. Make our fold. B3 is what we stitched on, and we are going to have to pull that previous seam out so we can lay the paper flat, and that's okay. We're just tearing the paper, totally okay. Nice sharp seam crease. And we put our ruler right against that crease. Trim everything off. Okay. Get rid of the scraps. And starting to see our block. Let's give it a good press. And we just have just one more piece to put on here, which is the piece of green. It's going to go right here. Let's get this set on here to make sure everything's going to be covered. Okay, and do the same thing here. Pin through everything at the seam. Pick everything up as one unit. There we go. Turn it over. Make sure the pins are down flat, sticking straight up. Your fabric is tight. Make our marks. And we're going to turn this over to go back into the same holes we came out of, just on the other side. Push our fabric down flat and then we'll pin. Okay, and when we open this, after we get it sewn, when we open it up, that's going to be our block. So let's go get back to the machine and sew this last seam here. Okay, let's get this seam sewn. Cut the thread and go back and do our trim and press. Okay, let's do our cut and trim of this piece. All right, fold back across the seam. Yes. And trim off all of this excess stuff that we don't need. Okay. Now we just need to press and do some more trim. we're not fully over. There we go. So this is a big piece, and in a smaller piece right now, I'd begin to cut around on the dotted line. I don't like this piece flapping out here. It wiggles too much. I'm going to take it back to the machine right quick, and I am just going to run a tacking stitch out here in the seam allowance across this tip of this flapping triangle just to hold it steady. So let's go back to the machine, and we'll get that done. That'll just take like 30 seconds. Okay, so I just want to tack down this loose end of a triangle. I'm just going to make sure I'm all smooth and pin it down. And just run a quick tack in the seam allowance just to keep that end steady. So not going to cross anything that's going to show on the finished side. It's going to be just running across the seam allowance. Okay, enough to keep it steady. So here we go. Let me show you here. I just ran across just the edge of that seam allowance right there, just to keep that flap from flapping, basically. All right, so bring us back over here. We're going to be cutting, so let's be on the cutting mat side of my board here. All right, so now I am going to trim on the dotted line all the way around this. Again, I'm just going to use my add a quarter ruler ridge up instead of down because I'm not pushing it against something. I'm just using it as a straight edge. And by tacking that corner there, I can still trim. It's in the seam allowance. It's going to stay tacked down there for now. And sometimes going across multiple layers, you do have to cut a couple of times. All right, and I'm going to trim my corners. All right, and you see I still have that tacking line there. It's just keeping things all secure. Let's just trim the last little bit of corners here. Now here comes the fun stuff. So let me grab the parts that I have pre-completed, and we start sewing things together. All right, so this is one triangle, and this is the side that goes with it. Right sides together. Going to pin this, and we're going to start from this end here that has the yellow. This is super duper thick. And it is easier to start on the thick end and come out than it is to start on the thin end and go in. So all of our seams here, as we're putting these pieces together, we're going to start in what is going to be the center of the block. When it ends up, this is going to be the center, and come out. So I'm going to leave the paper on. This is a whole lot of bias edges here, so the paper acts as a stabilizer. And I am going to pin. Again, things have a tendency to slippy slide on me. If you can manage to do this without pinning, yay. I have difficulty with that. Okay, pin both ends, and then I am going to pin a couple of times through the middle of this edge as well. I'm going to pin about where these seams come together. In a perfect world, all of our seams are going to meet exactly. I'm quite certain this is going to be far from a perfect world, but it's going to be good enough. All right, we are pinned. Back to the sewing machine. Okay, let's put this under the machine. And we're just going to sew this seam right down that solid line there. And hope that nothing slips too terribly badly. I've got it pinned, it shouldn't. You may need to just gently apply a little bit of pressure to get it over the hump here. And this is why I slow sew, because I do sew over my needle pins. If you sew slow enough, you won't break things when you sew over pins. Okay, we're coming up on another thick spot here and not wanting to go, so I'm going to give it a little pressure. Not a sharp tug. A sharp tug could damage your machine. Just a little pressure to keep it going. Okay, let's take a look here. Okay, looks pretty good. It got off the seam there just a little bit, but I'm not going to worry about it. It looks like it stayed on pretty good. So let's cut the thread, and we're going to go back to the pressing mat. Okay, I'll unpin it here. All right, and so here we go. And no, my seams did not meet exactly there, and I am not concerned. All right, so we've got the pins out. We are now going to open this out. There is our block. My seams did not meet there exactly because something slipped, and I'm going to leave it be. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my little trailing thread here. And I am going to take off the paper that is in the seam allowance, because we're done with it. It's done its job. And you notice how easily this paper tears. It really does. Ordinarily, you leave the paper on until you have the seam sewn. I have this seam sewn, so this paper is coming off. That's inside the seam allowance. Okay, and off on the other side. It's just now we're needing to reduce bulk, and this is a fairly thin paper, but it still does add some bulk to where we're going to be putting more seams in. All right, the other piece of paper I'm going to take out is in the A3 and the B3. This full triangle is fully enclosed by seams, so we don't need this paper in here either. That also will help reduce some bulk. We almost have a cameo appearance by one of the kitties. She was looking at me. That is enough. We got what we needed out, and then we'll take out on this side. Okay. All right, let's get rid of the trash so I can use my pressing mat here. We are going to press everything towards the A side. Okay. Here is our block pressed open. Let me give it a press on the top side too. So there is 1/4 of our block. And let me bring over the next 1/4 of a block that I have pre-done. And now these are going to sew together along here. And it doesn't matter whether I sew here or if I sew here. Whichever one. Actually, I'm going to look at what I've done on the previous one, and yes, I'm going to sew this side. I'm going to pin this. I'm actually going to come over here, and you notice my seams are going opposite directions, so that helps reduce bulk. This is part of the make your seams kiss here. That will help reduce bulk, that they're not both going the same direction. I'm going to put a few pins in. Alright, and I think I'm going to put 2 pins in the middle here because slippage. Okay, we are ready. We're going to go sew this seam at the sewing machine. Okay. Back over here. Once again, we're going to start from the end that has the yellow on it. That's the thicker end, and it's much easier to start at the thick end and at the thin end. Hold my tails. Let's get a slow start. Give it some pressure to get over the hump. There it goes. Alright. And looks probably as good as it's going to get. Looks like there might have been some slippage, and again, I don't care. Alright, let's go back to the pressing mat and we'll open this out up over there. Okay, back over here, and of course I never remember to cut these front end threads off over there. Take the pins out. Here is our half of our block. I am again going to do like I did last time. I'm going to pull off paper here out of the seam allowance. And then I'm also going to take off the little A2 here that has been sewn all the way around. Everything I can do to reduce bulk, because it really needs it. Alright. So there's that, and now I'm going to press this towards the B. We want our seams on the back to all be kind of pinwheeling around our block. So these two we press towards the A. This one I'm going to press towards the B so the seams keep going that direction. And let's get another piece of paper out. And give it a good smash. This is where if you've got a nice big heavy iron, get your big iron out and put some pressure on it to try to smash this flat, because there are already 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seams coming together, and we have to put the other half of this block onto it. Press the top side as well. And here is the other half of the block. And we're going to sew these two together. And got some weird things happening there, and I'm okay with it. Alright, so here these seams are all kind of going opposite directions from each other, which is a really good thing. We are going to start, I'm going to pin the whole length of this, but when I sew, I'm going to start here just up past the middle and come out. Then I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to sew the other side. We just got to, in fact, I'm actually going to pull out this A here as well, just because normally you don't pull your paper out until after you're all done sewing it, but we have got to get this bulk reduced as much as possible. Okay. And this just is, you send this off to your long arm quilter, she's going to hate this spot in your block, and there's no other way we could do it. And that. It is, you see it's so thick I can barely get the pins through it. So that is going to be a bit of a bear to sew down across all of those seams coming together in the middle. But we will do what we can, and I will attempt to keep the cursing to a minimum. Okay, we are ready to sew this seam. Alright, so here we go. We're starting this in the middle, in the thick section, and working our way out. And I guess this is kind of a partial seam sort of thing as well. Okay, I am going to start off holding my threads. I'm going to just manually put my needle down, and I'm going to pull pin out. That will also reduce bulk. And as we know, just a small amount of pressure just to keep things moving. And don't speed through this bump. If you sew fast, slow down. Maybe so slow as to almost be turning the hand wheel. See, I'm not getting it to move. Okay, finally got it. Okay. I am down off the big bump. I'm going to go back and sew the other way. I'm going to cut my lead strings. And make sure that you do sew over the seam you've already done to lock it in place. Otherwise things could come loose and that would be a headache. Alright, where are my ends here? Find my tails. There they are. Okay, so I've already pulled both the center pins out on both sides of the center. Here we go. Slowly giving it some pressure to get it over the hump. There we go. Okay, that is the final seam of this. Let's go back over to the pressing mat and open this up and show you the final block. Okay, here we go. Pull the pins. Take a look and see what this looks like. I have a little thread here to clip. And I'm going to go ahead and pull off the rest of this paper that's in the seam allowance. Actually, you could pull all the paper off at this point if you want to, or you can leave it in here until you get this sewn into your quilt. Either way you want to do it. I'm going to leave it on here just to save time on the video. Oh, anyway, no, I got it all. Okay, great. Okay, so we're going to open this up. All right, So we are going to not press both sides go in the same direction. We're going to continue the seam allowances going around the block this direction. Ordinarily, you'd be able to pull something apart here in the middle. I think I'm just going to smash it down, attempt to pull something apart. If it's only 4 seams that come together, you actually can, what they call, twist it open. I don't know if I can get this one to twist open, but I can smash it. So I'm going to press all the seams going in a circle, and you notice some of the paper is already trying to come out, and that's okay too. Okay, let's see if I can get anything to come apart here just to smash it. Even doing that, it's still very bulky. There we go. That one just came off in my hand. And I'm just going to smash this as best I can. Your long arm quilter, or if you're quilting this, I don't care whether you're quilting this by hand on your sew home machine or a long arm, you're going to want to avoid that spot. Do not even attempt to quilt over top of that spot, because it's going to be bulky. And my seams did not meet everywhere. My yellow points didn't meet, but in one spot they met, and I'm okay with that. So there is your block. This is the St. Louis Star. Have fun with this one. All right, thanks for watching as we made the St. Louis Star. If you are doing the 2020 Saturday Sampler, you're going to make one of these. It is a 10-inch block. It is entirely paper piece. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, smash the notification button, all those things YouTube we're supposed to tell you to do. And next month, for the April Saturday Sampler, I'll again do on video. Next month's block is the Dutch Rose, I believe. It's entirely half square triangles, so it'll be super easy, but I'll probably do a video of it too. All right, so thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.